Not all patterns start with us. Sometimes what feels like our pain isn't only always ours. We are shaped not only by our own experiences, but by the emotional landscape of those who came before us. Awareness doesn't blame the past. It integrates it so we can respond rather than repeat. No matter how hard we try to explain what family constellations is, it never comes near to what happens inside the field. Family Constellations offers a systemic lens to understand inherited emotional dynamics, unspoken grief, the love, the losses, the unfinished stories, relational imprints, money blocks, for a start. Which is why I have the lovely Kyla and Christian, first-hand witnesses to share their experiences. Find a cozy self-care, quiet space where you won't be disturbed, with an open heart, an open mind, and open ears. Enjoy! So excited to warmly welcome Kyla and Christian onto the podcast today. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I'm so grateful to have you.
Thanks, Sarah, for having us on. This is really exciting because it's the both of us. I know we've both been on previous episodes of your podcast, so I'm excited to see what magical conversation happens with this combination of energy.
So for those of you who don't already know, Kyla is our Family Constellations mentor, trainer, coach, healing guide, and everything else. And Christian is one of the Family Constellations Clusties. I always say Clusties. She's also a trainee for Family Constellations, and she's my quantum healing buddy. So for those of you who don't know their story, I'll leave the links in the show notes so you can catch up and see what they're all about in their life story.
Well, I don't know if you're going to find much because I dropped off the content creating map since the summer. So just in case you guys start looking for me, you won't see anything of recent, but I feel like I'm coming back soon, probably in the spring.
Like hibernation, and you're coming out of hibernation.
I've had a really long hibernation, and I've been with Kyla the whole time.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on and talk, because I feel like you've benefited so much from these constellation sessions.
Oh, absolutely. Man, where do I even start?
Kyla,
where would I even start, Kyla? So much has happened since last May. When we started work.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I was talking to a friend, another clusty I was talking to my aunt about you, Christian. My aunt is also a clusty. But so my dad's sister, my aunt, also does Family Constellations. Also, her life is totally shifted because of it, or thanks to it. And she was out. Somehow we got talking about Christian. And I think I was like, I've been texting back and forth with Christian, and I get into these podcast voice texts with each other about life and FC and being Asian and all kinds of things. And so I was talking to my aunt about her and Christian, and it was so amazing. I was like, Christian just 3x'd her revenue. And my aunt goes, wow! That was her expression. She was like, wow! And I just sort of was tracing it. I'm like, yeah, but Christian's come to every single monthly Family Constellations online event that we've had. She's showed up. And so money's showing up for her. And then I was like, and she didn't even have to negotiate that shit. Oh, are we allowed to swear?
Yes.
After I swear. But anyway, so maybe that will spark some.
There's so many elements to the story because I don't even think you know like all of the story, Kyla. Sarah, you've known me since like what, 2023?
Mhm.
And she knows like my whole like money journey, like as it had been unfolding. Like
Oh.
she was there when I originally manifested, because before I 3x my income, I was, for the audience context of where this is all coming from, I left my job and it was at 120K. I manifested 120K before the 3x right now. And that was like amazing to me. I was like, oh my God, before constellations work, I used human design and I was able to negotiate 120K. And at that time, I was like, this is impossible for my degree, for the work I do as a nurse. And then but the thing that they don't talk about manifestation is the energetic involvement it takes within you to hold that blessing, right? So I was making 120K and then within a year I got burnt out and quit. I couldn't hold it.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of reasons. There's like I had like life things happening. The work, I was a person who didn't have boundaries either. I couldn't say, because they were paying me this money, I couldn't say no. That ran me into the ground too. And I knew like when I had my family events happening, like I had 3 family members pass away within a 9-month period. Right before I quit.
Mm-hmm.
And when I quit, it wasn't a mistake. Like I quit, I felt right. I was so like exhausted. And I was like, and I really felt the difference. There's this contrast when you want to be a solopreneur, a spiritual entrepreneur. That decision I made back in 2021, I was like, what if I went into business for myself? I knew I wanted that. That was like 2 clues. I knew I didn't want to be a nurse anymore. I knew I wanted to work for myself, and I knew I was diving into spirituality at the same time. So that was my only clues at the time for the path I was going on. And then I became unemployed for a year and a half. And I didn't like, and you never, when you make these intuitive decisions, right? You're like, if I knew in my mental space that it would be a year and a half long and that I wouldn't, and the business wouldn't float, I probably would have never made that decision. I would have stayed. And this is why like the whole hindsight is 2020 situation. And what had unfolded was this experience while I was unemployed of how to put myself first, how to receive, how to ask help, how to heal with others. And that was the experience I had with Kyla, because another gift of her community is that she holds only Asian spaces, because only Asian spaces, healing spaces, safe healing Asian spaces or Asian healing spaces don't exist in North America. And that was the missing piece to my spiritual journey, because when I awakened in 2021, everything had been predominantly white. And and there's nothing wrong with it. That's just where we are as a collective. I don't see people around me open to this. Like I live in LA and there are people of color like who dive into this work, but it's predominantly white. Nothing wrong with it, right? I think we're all in this phase in the collective where we're really learning what it means for us to be all human and coming from source and spirit, because we're all carrying the stories of our ancestors that we are different, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that was the missing piece to my healing journey, is having because another context is that growing up, my dad was my caregiver, and my parents are private people, and it was very isolating, not growing up with people that look like me. So, and my dad was very trigger warning, physically and verbally abusive growing up. So my nervous system identified people that look like me as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed what Kyla had created for myself. And I also am aware that having only Asian spaces might feel confronting for people who might want to join, but she has all open to all spaces too. And that's why, and then Sarah gets to experience it.
By the way, these spaces are free for anybody who's listening.
Yes.
Kyla's so kind and provides these free spaces. So if anybody wants to join, I honestly can't recommend it enough.
It was incredible. Like, I went to, I don't know how many constellations I've been to, over 40. I think that's what Luma says, like the account I've been to since last May.
Mm-hmm.
And I have resistance to saying this. I haven't given Kyla any money. And for me, like, for my exchange, I like to spread her work.
Yeah.
And then Kyla always has to remind me I don't owe her anything, because this is her active community care. So there's something to work with in me, because I'm feeling a rise in my nervous system about it.
And that's so interesting, because I've never once thought about it that way, ever.
Oh.
I'm glad you have it. Because,
yeah, like, what's she gonna say? And I was like, oh, I've never once thought that. Yeah, interesting.
I love that, and I love that you never once thought that, because what do our thoughts do? We make, like, stories come through that aren't necessarily true unless we say these things out loud to each other, right? And it's really sticky, because we live in the spiritual space, and there's intuition and all of that. And, like, you know, when people, what is it called when people talk to each other through their minds? Telepathy. So, yeah. Thank you, Kyla, for all the work you helped me through.
Thank you, Kyla, so much. Kyla, you talk a lot about in your newsletters, which I love reading so much every minute I can, about shame and judgment and resistance. Can you explain a little bit more about that, if you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, of course. And I just wanted to thank you, Sarah, for having both of us on here and acknowledging the work. Christian, thank you for sharing your story and with such transparency with exactly what you're feeling in the moment around money too. I mean, these are the conversations that we want to have. These are the conversations that we want to feel safe to have. Mm-hmm. And often out in the world we can't. So shame, judgment, fate, I mean, resistance, there's so much there. But I think the first thing I'll say is that unlike a lot of other modalities, I personally tried 25 or so, and I find that Family Constellations is just so far and beyond. I mean, you all know, I mean, it's hard to explain, but just please come to a community care gathering. But what I will say is why Family Constellations is such a standout is that with those things like resistance, shame, judgment, fate, all those things, they get to be here. So we're not like, oh, be shameless and don't be judgy and they're all going to go away magically. No. We're like, let's have a human represent those things for you so you can fucking talk to them and see what they have to say to you, and often it's like, they're like, I'm just here, or if they're not, there's something for them, the person representing those things, that gets to be healed in their system.
Yeah.
Right. So there's multiple levels of healing, and we're not saying that they can't be there. So that's the first thing I would say. And yeah, I just want to check in with you all, your thoughts before I continue.
Well, I love especially that part, because you think, you're in a constellation, one of the community care sessions, thinking that you have an idea, and then you leave with a completely different experience because you don't expect what happens to happen. And it's like, it's much more profound than you expect. So that's what happens to me.
Totally. What about for you, Christian?
I mean, I say this all the time. I go there just to hang out, honestly, because I love hanging out with everybody in there. It's like my social time. And I'm in human design, I'm a 2 profile, so I hermit a lot. I have a lot of isolation time, and I love spending time with people, but I can't always be around people at the same time. So that's like my version of socializing. But yeah, no, it's other, like, aside from that, like, how many healing communities have you been in that you can say you've stuck with for a very long time, that you just want to hang out in?
Yeah, I know.
That's really special.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's magical at the same time.
That's a great insight. I love that. I kind of feel like people come for the constellation, but they stay for the clustyhood. We call our clients turn besties, which is clusties, or constellation besties. That's a new one that Radhika put together. But the other piece about shame is that Brene Brown talks about this, is that shame needs a secret. And because of what I shared earlier, in constellation work, all the shit comes out, and so there's no secret anymore. The other piece, and this is like David Bedrick's work, is that shame needs a witness. And we can do you more. We can do you one better in Family Constellations, because you've got like 10 people witnessing you. And they're like what Christian said, there are these people who care so deeply. Like you two. I mean, there's just such great, thoughtful humans who are also not judging you because they've been there. So that's the piece of shame. And then with judgment, judgment's a really interesting piece of all of this work. And the family constellation lens on this is that if we judge or criticize, we exclude from the family system. And who or what we exclude, we don't, and we can't acknowledge. And who or what we can't acknowledge, we can't heal. So it sort of loops back to the beginning of like, everything gets to be there.
Yeah.
Including shame, judgment, resistance, all the things. I want to add to that. I'm a part of Kyla certification too. And it's amazing. Every, like, once a month, one weekend a month, and the whole weekend it's like a transformative, like, it feels like we're learning, and it's a transformative, like, online spiritual retreat happening at the same time every month. She taught in her, it's true, like last time was, it's so crazy, like all the things that need to be acknowledged within the group that we're healing through. And I'm excited to see where we end up at the end of the year. My biggest takeaway was from module 1 so far. And I trained in life coaching before I became a quantum hypnotist with Sarah. And I knew that awareness, you can't heal what you're not aware of. And then you need to take action if you want to make change, right? Aligned action.
That's right.
I was always, when Kyla taught that first module, she's like, awareness, acknowledgement, and action. I was like, oh shit, I always skip the acknowledgement part. I always skip the acknowledgement part.
We all do. Because we're human.
Yeah. Well, and we're such a smart society, so much information. We know a lot of things. And we also know how to take action on things. But we don't give the space for the acknowledgement piece. And for me, and I have, like, if you guys are into astrology for the audience, I have a Capricorn moon. I'm also Asian. So, like, emotions did not come, like, the relationship with emotions didn't come natural to me. But I feel like society as a whole in general is the same way. Like, else we wouldn't have this term coined emotionally immature parents. And how easy was it for me to ignore the undercurrent of, like, survival in my nervous system after I quit my job? Because I didn't know where money was coming from next. And there was, like, a lot of moments where magically money was coming from. But also Spirit led me to an experience of becoming closer with my partner because we would never talk about money. He didn't want to. I couldn't make him. You know what I mean? I can only control my experience, right?
Yeah.
What I can control. So through all of that, the same, like, through Kyla's work, I also had this weekend at the hypnosis conference, and I was like, I was like in this rock and a hard place, and I was ready to I was like, I wanted help. So I volunteered for a demo with Melissa Tears in July last year. And I was like, I just need help. This is what's going on with me. I don't know where money's coming from. I'm doing so much work, content creating and building a business and networking and all the things. And I had 200 witnesses in that room to acknowledge me.
Wow.
And I just started waterfall crying in front of everybody. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize this is what I've been shoving away for like over a year. I like want to cry just thinking about it.
That's so brave.
And it was after that big cry, I felt like a different person the next day. It was like night and day. I even had people coming up to me the next day and like, were you the person that was who was crying in front of everybody? And even in conferences like that where people are open to different modalities, you don't see that kind of profound action.
Mm-hmm.
Like people just openly crying in public like that in spaces like that. So even like my friends were there, I was like, we had something to take away from it too, because everybody there are hypnotists and creating things of their own as well. So yeah, there's so much medicine in a group dynamic. Like we're tribal beings, like originally, and we don't do enough of that in the society we inherited when we were born.
Totally agree. Peer support, it's just invaluable.
Agreed. Thank you, Christian, for sharing that. I mean, I've been recently thinking about vulnerability I wrote about it in my newsletter. And I think it's so interesting, like out in the world where people, my dad, my dad and my hubby, the three of us watch American Idol together. And there's always folks that are like, and no judgment, but it's interesting to me. There's always folks that are like, oh, I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry on TV. No, don't make me cry. Right? It's really interesting. And so it occurred to me one night that imagine if you took out the word cry and you put human and you exchange those, right? And then the person saying, I don't want people to see me being human. Mm-hmm. I don't want people to know don't make me be human. Mm-hmm. So right. So, Christian, you're just being human in front of 200 people.
Yeah. That's
incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, and also like, wait a second, why aren't more people being human? Yeah. Like, so anyways, there's a whole thing there around safety, I think. But I mean, all to say, Christian, that's really incredible that you were human.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on being human, Sarah? I'm like curious.
Well, this is what is coming to mind right now at the moment, because I can imagine that so many people find it hard to be vulnerable, which is being human. And it might stem down through our ancestral lines and our family lineage and society. And like you were saying, mentioning about safety. And this is why I think these sessions are so important right now in this point in time across the world, that, our family lineages are getting a chance to be healed. And I feel like it's kind of our responsibility to be human and a little bit vulnerable and to not be afraid. But, it's not easy either.
What would you guys say to the person who's scared to be human?
Come to a Family Constellation session.
And join in community.
I totally was going to say that, but I was like, no. We've already pushed Family Constellations too much on Sarah's audience.
Realistically,
it's only been 30 minutes.
If somebody was lost and they were like, where do I even start? Well, that's the perfect opportunity to start there. Honestly, it's not like selling, it's just being honest and truthful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that too. And I just had a very honest discussion, and I think this will loop a lot of things in again. I had a very honest discussion with the woman that was hosting, also a clusty, her retreat over the weekend, about, what if it's not for everybody, and and it's so interesting because Kyla pre-FC work would have been like, well, why wouldn't it be for everybody? It's, judgy, energy. And I just was kind of giggling about what she told me, and I just was like, oh, that's so funny, and then, like, I wasn't carrying any shame around it, like, or judgment or anything, and then I told her, and then, maybe this is also the message that folks need to hear too. You can just come, and then you can just observe.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You don't have to like represent or be a seeker or, be part of the constellation. Although even if you are an observer, you're technically part of it, but don't tell anybody. But so we just had this like conversation, and it just was a light conversation, and then later I reflected on that conversation, and I just was like, wow. Christian likes to call it my Muppet voice. Wow,
well, I got it from you though.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I forget that. Yeah. So my Muppet voice is like, wow, I'm so different, or anyway. So, just just again, in the awareness, acknowledgement, action piece, which is Christian brought up, is also part of our Mitsunaga method. But it's like, there are some family constellations is the modality in which we use to acknowledge the hard shit in the middle, awareness, acknowledgement, action. And so, just acknowledging, hey, like maybe there's some fear. And the beauty of family constellations work is, let's say you come in and maybe you have fear, which or you don't feel safe, and maybe you don't want to participate because of those reasons. Well, more likely than not, someone else will be chosen to be the seeker, and fear and safety will be represented, and you'll walk away with some deep, profound healing. Like Sarah, what you were saying, you walk in thinking one thing and you leave thinking another. And like Christian, you said, you're really there you're staying for the clustyhood.
Yeah.
So, it's a win-win-win.
Mm-hmm. I remember my first session, I didn't expect, well, like I said before, what happened on my first session. And I think I came because I was curious. Christian was saying, you have to come, she was inviting us all in the group. So I went, and I didn't mind participating immediately. So I think I was the seeker straight away. And a lot of stuff, ancestral stuff, came up about Ireland and the famine. Curiously, that would have never come into my mind, like I didn't know I would have been carrying energy from like ancestors and lineages thousands and thousands of years ago. I wouldn't have, thought of that. And there was a massive weight lifted off me, where a sense of home, and I don't know what it was, but there was definitely a healing of home there. So
I love that, because I've never seen you share pictures in the group with pictures of Ireland, and then you had went recently, and I was like, oh my God, Sarah's there. But in that constellation, someone represented the land of Ireland, right?
Mm-hmm. And
I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, there were lots of different representatives. I think one was of Ireland, one was of people leaving Ireland, one was of the actual blight, the potato blight itself. It was very powerful. I was bawling. So thanks.
It was amazing. I do want to say, I love talking about epigenetics, like science, if anybody's interested in the science. And through my spiritual awakening, a lot of my journey is mental health awareness. And a lot of our mental health is from our ancestors. So what happened during the pandemic, they did this research on rats, and they noticed that when one of the rats started displaying a certain behavior based on a situation, all the children started doing the same thing. So it's a genetically inherited behavior. Mm-hmm. And the most recent research is that it was 7 generations, now it can go up to 11 generations. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's really fascinating. That what are we carrying? Where is it coming from? This energetic feeling that we're having. And I didn't realize how deep ancestral work goes until I exposed myself to Kyla's work. And I also want to say, we talked about fear, we talked about like potato famine, like really scary events, shame, judgment. Kyla's work is also fun.
Yeah, we're always laughing at some stage.
And it sounds scary, but it's actually fun. We laugh a lot, and often, and not even in the field, which is this, I don't even know how to, I just learned about the field. This energy that connects us all in family constellations. And when we were in there, God, I was remembering a definition and now I've lost my train of thought.
You got it.
You never, you're what is it? the field never gives you something you aren't ready for.
Yeah.
And I find that in most spiritual spaces. Like, you experience something and it was there because it didn't happen any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it unfolded the way it was meant to. And it reminded me of the book. I'm in the certification and there's a bunch of books to read, and I'm reading The Surrender Experiment, and it kind of is giving that vibe, like, how do I allow the experience that I incarnated to, if you believe in that, that is before you, and just what wants to be shared with me in every moment. And I feel that a lot in constellations, because it's often a surprise. And my favorite and the really fun constellations I've been a part of, or like, when this is fun to me. I remember who was that Asian deity that...
Oh, Guan Yin.
I represented Guan Yin once. I know there was past ones where Buddha was represented.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other ones where money is represented, or love, or...
You were an ATM machine.
I was an ATM machine once in a money constellation, and I love representing inanimate objects. And I'm gonna tell like a really interesting side story. During my spiritual awakening and like learning about different modalities and stuff, like quantum hypnosis was there, but it wasn't really necessarily in my sights. And I was listening to a quantum hypnotist, and he had a session with a client, and the client recovered a memory as a inanimate object on another planet, in like an assembly line robot. And it like made me think, I was like, and it made me think about like consciousness, and like, where are we all, how are we all connected, where are we all from? And I love this is where Christian likes to like peer into different connections.
That's awesome.
What's the I forgot what it's called now. There's a Japanese Shinto, I believe, and everything has a spirit. Even like the plastic bottle that you see on the ground that somebody missed, the trash can, it's on the grass. Like, everything has a spirit. That's what it reminds me of. And when we think about it that way, like, how do we have a connection to everything around us? How do we relate? And it's all a mirror to like our experience, our perspective, who we are. So, and then we get to explore that in Family Constellations. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I love that. And it's so interesting because I was literally in this Japanese garden doing family constellations like over the weekend at this retreat. And it was so zen over there. Amazing. Conversation. I'm just like, I'm still on the everything has a spirit. Like, I don't know what to say after that, you know?
Yeah.
So profound.
But I love that too, and I love how it kind of ties into the quantum field, because one of my questions was, is family constellations, like, obviously it's a part of the field, we're all connected, but my question would be, is it the same quantum field that we manifest from? And or are we all the same? That's one question that keeps coming into my mind.
Before I answer that, what's the quantum field for you?
Well, the quantum field, I think, is like the 0 point, field where everything and nothing is possible, where everything exists and nothing exists. It's kind of like the 0 point where we can manifest from. And I'm wondering, do we connect to that? I'm sure we do. That's probably a stupid question, but...
No, it's not a stupid question. Let me just ask you some more clarifying questions before I answer your question. So, to you, based on what you just mentioned, is it an energy?
Yes, I think it's all energy.
Okay, then yeah, same.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. Probably the most purest point.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are family constellations facilitators who are very strict.
Yeah.
Right. You have to do it this way. You can't do it this way. You have to use healing phrases. Da, 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 da. They have to look like this. You can't, the representatives can't talk to each other. Da, 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 da. I mean, there's a lot, right? I am not one such. Like, to me, if there's a stuck point for a clusty, I mean, what I mean by that is, if there's something, I see things in FC lens, right? So there's a clusty, here's the field, and if there's a representative in front of them, we're just put it up in a constellation and let's figure out what it is. Right? But, you know, if it's like, you say potato, there's a potato theme, Ireland potato. If you,
real quick, what do you mean by something in front of them? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, if there's an obstacle,
like a blockage.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So whether it's a thought, whether it's a belief, whether it's an actual, like an ancestor, trauma, mom, dad, you know, let's look at that. Because often when people say, I don't know, or I'm confused, right? We can also put somebody to represent, I don't know, or I'm confused, right? Or the confusion. There's often something underneath that, right? I mean, and let's just take away the logic brain part of this entire conversation. Back to your question, Sarah. Is this like this? Is, you know, right? I mean, it's a great question. It's a valid question. It gets to be there. Let's acknowledge the question. And you've already been in the field. I've seen you rep. You're good. Your logic brain doesn't need to know how.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like, and like, you know, and that's the thing about this certification. I mean, it's great, and we can get into logic brain too much, understandably, because we're trying to figure out how Kyla facilitates so that we can also facilitate, you know. Totally get it. And you're paying me in order to help you learn this modality. Totally get it. And part of my work, and, you know, what is also my responsibility, I don't know, it sounds so adult, Muppet voice coming out, part of my responsibility is to make sure you're not in logic brain.
I think, and this is just being a facilitator, the facilitator's path, like say you want to be a tarot reader or what have you, and the part that I think people don't talk about enough, besides technique and the hows, is the trust piece. Like, we're actually we're practicing learning how to trust what is coming through for us, or that the next move is right for us, or not right, but the next move. It's just the next move. It's not right or wrong.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so, Sarah, like, for you, like, if you're coming in and you're tapping in, and maybe it's the quantum field for you, you know, and Christian, you're coming in and maybe it's something else for you, and somebody else is coming in and they're like, oh, it's spirit for me. You know what? You know, the only reason I would go in and be like, oh, are you okay, would be if you, and this rarely happens, if you're like, oh, nothing's coming through, or I don't get it, or, you know, and that's not happened with you two at all, and it rarely happens. It's a thought that people have before they come into the field.
Yeah.
Am I going to do it right? Am I going to be able to represent? Am I going to fuck it up? Am I doing it? You know, did it anyway? Lots of thought. Not saying that you two but just generally in the years that I've been doing it, I have people after I explain it to the best of my ability, that I'll have people be like, okay, I'm just going to come and observe. And I'm like, okay, yeah, great. And 9 times out of 10, they get called in and they're crying.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, the logic brain, you know, like, oh, they're, you know, and then, and I'm always like, I never disagree with them. You know, I'm never like, okay, but just like, you have to be a representative. No, I never say that, because I look at them, you know, that's the resistance, right? Mm-hmm. I look at them and they're like, no, I'll just come. I'm like, oh, let's just see, you know. Mm-hmm. But that's also part of their journey.
Mm-hmm. It's just surrender. I imagine a lot of surrender comes into play here, and kind of releasing control and allowing our kind of creative healing side to flow.
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, like, so underneath the umbrella of acknowledgement, right, which is in between awareness and action, is accepting and allowing. Mm-hmm. And that's
so good.
That's so much of our work. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's not easy.
Allowing.
It's not
like,
easy.
How often do we try to control our experiences because we have like anxiety or fear, guilt, or shame, or all the things?
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, so much of control is like fear-based, and so much of what we're doing in Family Constellations is love-based, right? The surrender, the trust. Christian, you mentioned trust earlier. The safety, Sarah, you mentioned that. You know, I mean, that's so much based in love. And the beauty of Family Constellations is you can bring somebody in to represent love.
You know what I love that I haven't seen in other spaces, because I like you, Kyla, I've tried a ton of modalities. I've been with different like spiritual facilitators in whatever modality that was. What I have not seen was like show of hands who is okay with this, and oh, you're not okay with it, we're all not doing it. Mm-hmm. And an example of that is in the certification, someone didn't want our constellations recorded, one of the clusties. She didn't feel safe in her nervous system to do that. So we're all, or whatever the example was, I don't know if it was recording, but
it was
recording, and it was, no, we're not going to do it until she was okay with it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a powerful experience, like loving ourselves as a community entity group. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever seen it before, because I think a lot of people they were like, they look at each other as like, should I say yes or no? And I love that certain clusties feel safe enough to share their needs out loud. And that's like what Kyla created in her space.
Yeah. And this also I can imagine that this ripples out into our circles as well. So it's not even just the constellation groups or, you know, the workshops or the retreats. It goes like way beyond, across all timelines.
And also Family Constellations itself does, right? So there was one time, I don't know if I told you all about this experience, or right after I got certified with my first program, I decided it would be a good idea to go on this like wellness audio social media app. So it's sort of like live podcasts, like every room like has different like live podcasts going on, and you can like jump into different rooms. And so I was like, I'm gonna do this like for 100 days and like do Family Constellations. My first trainer was like, okay, so wait a second. So you're doing one-on-one Family Constellations on audio. You cannot see them. There are other people in the room below this line who can listen to this session live? And I'm like, uh-huh. And then she's like, and anybody can come in on this at any point during the session. I'm like, mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, just try it. So I did this. I didn't manage the 100. I did 58. So every morning at 10 a.m. I show up to this thing. And then, I had so many experiences. That's another podcast episode, but suffice to say, it was so interesting because I did this one-on-one session, and I don't remember what happened, but I do remember this. The next day, one of the listeners of this podcast, quote unquote, came back, and she goes, "Kyla, I have a question about, family constellations and how this works." And I'm like, "Sure, come up." She comes up and she says, "All right, so I was sitting in my car in traffic in LA here, and I felt this energy shift, and my energy completely shift after you healed, after you did your session, your one-on-one session with that complete stranger. Is that possible in this work?" And I was like, "I guess it is." Like, Sarah, what you're saying, I mean, who knew?
Yeah.
Well, we're all in the room just stunned.
That speaks to, well, I mean, a lot of the work that Sarah and I do, we've always done it online.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me, when I feel like there's a limitation, like there's a thought limitation to how healing can unfold, I always think, well, how am I putting a limitation on the field or universe or source's capacity for limitless possibility? That's where my mind goes next. So like when she said that she healed in LA traffic, I believe it.
Wild.
Totally. It seems like she just allowed it to flow.
Yeah.
I love you too. I love how you're like, yeah, of course.
It makes sense to us. Because like, and because like a lot of our work has been online, and you do a lot of in-person, Kyla, and we do like recorded sessions, and I always say, like, whenever you hear this is the moment you're meant to hear this and heal from this. Whatever, like, time and space doesn't exist for Sarah and I.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I don't know if we're ending the episode soon, but I did want to ask a fun question at the end, if this is where we're ending the conversation.
Of course.
Okay. Because Sarah and I are quantum hypnotists, I've always wanted to do or introduce aliens into the field. Kyla.
Friendly.
I love it.
And I know that, and I brought it up during our last module, and I was like, and like when you started marketing or sharing that you're doing a certification, I was like, what if I did Galactic Constellations? That was like my first idea that popped in my head.
Yeah,
like,
there's a dude who does it.
Really? I'm intrigued. Like, what?
Why not?
Like, have you ever participated in one? Or I'm like so curious about the idea.
Yeah,
or...
there's a dude who did it in Malta. I mean, there's some stuff, let's chat later about that. But it was totally, I mean, and he started the workshop by saying, who believes in aliens or something, and all of us, of course, are like, yeah, we all do, I mean,
yeah.
So, and it was like, I don't know all the terminology, right? Because it's also like Atlantis something, right? Like the jargon around. So, yeah, I mean, why not just make it your own? Hellinger, the founder of Family Constellations, never put any trademark or patents or anything on family constellations, so that each practitioner could take it and make it their own.
I love that idea.
I have a theory.
Hmm.
Now that I had that idea. Remember when I went into epigenetics? So in our quantum hypnosis spaces, a lot of us believe that we are hybrids, that we do have alien DNA in us. And I was like, what if we can work ancestrally through galactic lineages through this work? That's where my mind goes with it.
That makes complete sense.
Why not? And you would probably be the first Asian facilitator doing that.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear more.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Just gratitude for both of you. For Sarah, thank you for having us both on, and just you're always so gracious and kind and such a great listener. And Christian, yeah, it's been, thank you for sharing so much about your perspective on family constellations. I don't think I've heard it like this before, so it's soul warming to be here with both of you. Feel honored and privileged to be here.
Well, thank you so much, Kyla, for being so endlessly kind. And I can't wait for our constellation sessions later. I know obviously this recording will go out later, but yeah, we'll put all the details in the show notes for anybody who'd like to join in the future. And hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Yeah, and see you guys at Kyla's Constellations, because Sarah and I frequent them pretty often.
Totally. It's definitely it's such a heartwarming journey. Strengthening,
it is.
At least.
Yeah, we're stronger together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Sending you both so much love, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And I hope you've gotten what we've got from this session today. Thank you. See you soon.